AWS enthusiasts. First of all, thank you for having me at the AWS Community Summit Online 2021. My name is Chloe Warren and I'm a Territory Manager in AWS. I support East of England customers and their journey to the cloud. I've been in Amazon for nearly 4 years now, and through different teams I've had the pleasure of learning about this topic. So today I would like to share with you Amazon's culture of innovation. As we work with customers at AWS, they often ask us, how does Amazon innovate? So today I'm going to share with you what our culture of innovation is and how we do it. We know there are so many ways to innovate, and we do not claim that ours is the best or only approach. You may have different ways that you prefer to work, but we're happy to share details about what we've adopted and the lessons that we've learned over time and what works for us. So let's jump into it. So we'll start with some background about Amazon's mission, which is to be the Earth's most customer-centric company. The words that make up our mission matter and are very deliberate. Our mission scope is to be purposefully broad and not limited to specific domains or market segments. It isn't focused on selling books or e-commerce or even technology. The mission is not focused on a type of customer because our customers are worldwide and include millions of consumers, sellers, content creators, developers, enterprises, and even more. We work with customers of all different sizes, from startups to mid-sized businesses to even the biggest global enterprises, and across all industries and market segments in both private and public sectors. Each of these customers have different needs and opportunities, and we want to innovate new solutions to make any and all of these diverse customer experiences easier, faster, better, and more cost-effective. While the mission is broad, it is also specific and laser-focused on the customer, which can help us in making decisions. When there is a choice between different opportunities to, say, launch new features or improvements, a tie-breaking question in our decision process is, which direction is the most customer obsessed? What is the best thing for our customers? We start by diving deep to understand our customers, what they need or what they want, where they have frustration or pain in their life. Working backwards from those customer needs help us invent ways to surprise and delight our customers. It's not only about being close to customers and asking them what they want, but deeply understanding their situation and context so that we can invent on their behalf. There are so many viable approaches to how you can center a business. You can focus on competitors, you can invent new technologies, innovate around business models, and many other approaches. At Amazon, we've chosen to center our approach around customer obsession and customer focus. So why have we chosen to center our business on customers? In his 2016 shareholder letter, Jeff Bezos wrote that there are many advantages to a customer-centric approach, but a big one is that customers are always beautifully, wonderfully dissatisfied, even when they report being happy and business is great. Even when they don't know it, customers want something better, and your desire to delight customers will drive you to invent on their behalf. Putting the customer at the center of everything you do will provide endless ideas and inspiration to innovate. By inventing on behalf of customers, Amazon doesn't build technology for technology's sake or invent in isolation. And the result of starting with customers opens up to explore and innovate in many areas that you may have otherwise not. So Amazon is in a very broad range of products and services, and you can see so many images on the screen at the moment. We started with e-commerce retail, first with books, moving into DVDs and CDs, and then expanding into multiple product categories globally. We've now got things from apparel to games to home and garden, pet supplies, beauty, toys, even automotive and industrial. Then we've also got AWS with over 200 tools and services across AWS to leverage the cloud for compute, storage, machine learning, analytics, and much more. We've also got a hardware devices business, things like Kindle, devices, tablets, the Echo family, Alexa, Fire TV, and home security. We also enable streaming content, so think of Amazon Video, original content from our Amazon studios, and streaming channels with Twitch. We've then got a consumables business with food and grocery like Whole Foods and also Amazon Fresh. And then finally, we also have physical retail with Amazon Go, Amazon bookstores, and our 4-star stores. It is a wide range of businesses, and that makes you wonder why and how Amazon got involved, and how we manage such disparate businesses. The answers tie back to innovating on behalf of customers, no matter what their needs are. The common thread across all of these businesses was a need or a pain point of our customers. There was something going on in their lives and we wanted to support and innovate. And us working backwards to invent on their behalf, even in areas that were outside of the scope of our core business, has led us to these businesses today. Amazon Go is a great example. The origin of the entire business wasn't around getting into the physical grocer space. It was simply trying to address a shared customer problem, which is, was there a way to remove the need of having to wait in line at a checkout? I can guarantee it's not your favourite thing when you go shopping. We also like to innovate where it's the right thing to do for customers everywhere. An example of this is sustainability efforts, like the climate pledge commitment to be net carbon zero by 2040, which is 10 years ahead of the Paris Agreement, making 50% of all of Amazon shipments net zero by 2030, and investing $2 billion to support the development of technologies and services that reduce carbon emissions, putting 10,000 Amazon custom electric delivery vehicles worldwide as early as 2022, and all 100,000 in our fleet online by 2030. We have a long-term focus on innovating for customers, asking not just what kinds of customers we have now, but what will they be and continue to be in the future. A lot of things that you can form strategy around, like competitor sets or certain technologies, can change rapidly. At Amazon, we focus on durable needs, prominent customer pain points or desires that we believe will be stable over time. So here on screen, you can see an example from our e-commerce retail business. We focus on durable customer needs around low prices, increased selection, and convenience. Customers are never going to come back to us one day and say, we wish prices were higher, I wish I had less choice, I wish I had less convenience. So when you focus on durable needs, you can build sustainable, self-fulfilling flywheels for your businesses. The flywheel that you see here on screen starts by focusing on the customer experience and working relentlessly to improve it. So by creating a better experience, we attract more traffic from new and existing customers. More traffic attracts more demand for our products and services and brings more sellers to our site to reach these customers, helping expand the selection that we can offer customers. This also helps achieve greater scale, so reducing our cost structure and allowing us to pass this experience of benefiting from lower prices, thus creating this sustainable closed-loop flywheel that helps drive Amazon's retail growth. At AWS, we know that our customers' durable needs are a breadth and depth of services, and features within those services include reliability, availability, ease of use, data, security. You'll never find 10 years from now customers say, I love AWS, but I just wish it was less secure, or I love AWS, but I just wish it was down more often. By focusing your innovation around durable customer needs and building these closed-loop flywheels around them, the energy and investment that you put into them now will still remain relevant and pay dividends 10 years from now. So now that you've got a grounding in our customer-centric approach, I will now talk about how we practically apply this approach across 4 main elements of how Amazon organizes for innovation. First of all, we've got culture. Secondly, we've got mechanisms. Thirdly, architecture. And fourth, organization. You'll see as we progress through this presentation that these are all overlapping and interdependent constructs. They definitely rely on each other, and when we do them all together, we take innovation and we move it to the edge, unlocking the potential of everyone in our company. The first element is our culture. You need the people to operate our system of innovation according to a system of common, unifying beliefs. And one mechanism that helps drive consistency in our culture is our leadership principles. At Amazon, we hold ourselves and each other accountable for demonstrating these 14 leadership principles on screen through our actions every single day. These leadership principles describe how Amazon does business, how leaders lead, and how we keep the customer at the center of our decisions. This slide shows the headline of these leadership principles. Each has a few sentences of descriptive text accompanying them, which you can read by going to the link shown on screen. Our leadership principles start with customer obsession and end with deliver results, but there is no hierarchy or order to them. You might notice that there is some tension between some of the leadership principles. Taking the time to dive deep could slow down bias for action. How do you simultaneously dive deep and think big? We have a principle about disagreeing and committing. Our LPs are not meant to be harmonious. They are meant to be used together to help us make faster, high-quality decisions. They serve as guideposts to help us balance priorities at the time we need to make a decision. They help frame conversations where decisions are hard and complex, and they force us to look at problems from many different angles. For example, you need to be biased for action and move fast, but you should dive deep at the right level to inform and validate the approach and mitigate risk. We need to think big and create bold, visionary innovations for customers, but we need to dive deep so that we have the right detail on execution. We encourage employees to have backbone and voice diverse opinions. This fosters rich discussion and gets to a better long-term answer that benefits customers. But once we get to that decision, no matter what side of the discussion we were on, we need to commit to it and focus our energy in executing it together. You'll also note that we say that these leadership principles, unless you know better ones. Our LPs have remained really consistent over time, but they are not set in stone. They have changed over time. The latest change was the addition of Learn and Be Curious in 2015. We also merged a former leadership principle about being vocally self-critical into Earns Trust. We also have a philosophy that everyone in the company is a leader on our mission, and part of that leadership is using these principles every single day to help us make better decisions in helping our customers. We use our LPs even in our hiring process and discussing examples that candidates relate in interviews. They're used to frame the feedback that we give each other as peers and in growth and development conversations between managers and employees. They are the common denominator, and we really do use them every single day. So let's discuss a few of them in a little bit more detail. Let's look at invent and simplify. I mean, this speaks to innovation, and it's why we're all here today. There are many ways to meaningfully innovate with bold, revolutionary ideas. But I want to highlight that you can also innovate by simplifying. One small, seemingly insignificant cost or time saving can be achieved when scaled across millions of customers. It can drive enormous benefits for both you and your customers. That innovation can come internally, or it can be inspired by outside ideas. And a core concept of this leadership principle is that to be innovative, you may have to accept being misunderstood for long periods of time. A specific example of willing to be misunderstood is our Kindle. Many people questioned the first generation of the Kindle when we launched it in 2007. We were not the first company to develop an e-reader, and we didn't have a history of developing hardware. The device was quite big and heavier than most paperback books, and there were questions about why we would build a product that could impact sales of physical books sold on Amazon.com. We may not have had the most elegant design out of the gate, but our design philosophy wasn't focused on creating the slickest device. Instead, it was about ensuring that reading experience was one that, like a real book, made the Kindle disappear in your hands to the point that you were not aware you were reading from a device, but you were simply engaging with the writer's words and experiencing the story. Add to that convenience of accessing millions of books and carrying an entire library from your pocket, the ability to download content wirelessly via Wi-Fi or free cellular connectivity without having to sideload content from a computer, along with so many other features, you now have a device that could do things far beyond the capabilities of a physical book. We believed in the long-term vision that customers would always see the value and the simplicity of being able to easily find a book, download it and start reading. Any book ever published in any language, all in 60 seconds or less, was and remains to this day Kindle's mission. It's simple, reader-centric, and focused on the durable needs of accessibility, convenience, and a great reading experience. And of course, we iterated and we improved the device. Contrast the original Kindle with today's version, which are light, incredibly thin, and more affordable, easy to read in bright daylight or in the dark. It has better memory, better performance, and a better battery life. And some are even waterproof if you like reading in the bath. Another example of willingness to be misunderstood and long-term thinking is AWS. When AWS was first launched in 2006, many called it a risky bet. We were getting questions all over the shop. What do you know about cloud computing? Don't you need an enterprise sales force? Is it even secure? We also had questions like, can you just focus on making your retail business profitable? But at the time, we had learned a lot about building reliable, scalable, cost-effective infrastructure services to support our own needs as a retail business. And we thought other enterprises could benefit from these services as well. Jump ahead a decade and a half later, and customers love AWS's innovative services and features, and our continuous reinvestment and innovation on their behalf. We've reduced prices 85 times since AWS launched in 2006. We have over 200 fully featured services for compute, storage, databases, networking, analytics, machine learning, IoT, mobile security, VR and AR, media, application development, and more. We drive continuous feature releases, improving these services constantly and increasing the pace of our innovation. In 2017, we launched 1,430 significant services and features, 1,975 in 2018, 2,345 in 2019, and 2,757 in 2020 alone. And we look to meet the diverse needs of our global customers wherever they are, with 77 availability zones within 24 geographic regions, with another plan for 15 more availability zones and 5 more AWS regions in India, Indonesia, Japan, Spain, and Switzerland. Another leadership principle is bias for action, which states speed matters in business. Many decisions and actions are reversible and do not need extensive study. We value calculated risk-taking. So how do you decide when it's appropriate to move quickly? Well, a clue is in the description, whether it's reversible. A really helpful mental model we've developed is the concept of a one-way versus a two-way door. One-way doors have significant and irreversible consequences and need deep analysis and deliberation. Examples include building a new data center or a fulfillment center. These require careful thought, extensive planning, and a lot of capital investment, and are hard to reverse once you are starting to break ground. Two-way doors have limited and reversible consequences, such as experimenting with new features on a mobile shopping app. Decisions can be made rapidly quick and iterate quickly based on what you learn or reverse altogether. When we see a two-way door and we have enough evidence and reason to believe that going through it would be a good idea, we just walk through it. Either way, we've learned a valuable lesson that we can apply to the next iteration or innovation. We teach leaders that they should make a decision when you have around 70% of the information you wish you had. If you wait for 90%, you're probably moving too slow. So now we've talked about culture, the next element of how we organize for innovation at Amazon is mechanism. Mechanisms are encoded behaviours that facilitate innovative thinking and help systematically address recurring business challenges. When there are recurring problems, a team can get together and try harder to fix the problem, but the team already had good intentions. So mechanisms help turn good intentions into action and change. A mechanism is a complete process, a virtuous cycle that reinforces and improves itself as it operates. We build tools such as a piece of software or a process, drive adoption of that tool and inspect results to see whether we're having the impact we intended. We then constantly iterate and we improve the tool. There are many types of mechanisms at Amazon, and these allow us to scale and help leaders operate beyond their direct line of sight. Examples include the and-on cord to allow frontline customer service agents to remove defective product information from the Amazon catalog. Another example of reporting processes like our weekly, monthly, and quarterly business reviews that are adopted across all organizations at Amazon as regular, consistent cadences that focus both on the output of our businesses as well as the underlying drivers of the businesses or its inputs. The hallmark mechanism we have to consistently drive customer-centric innovative thinking and execution is the working backwards process. Every customer-facing product or service developed across Amazon uses the working backwards process. We use this mechanism to make sure that we build the right thing for customers and that the customers are obsessed from the very beginning of any idea. The output of the working backwards process is a document, commonly referred to as a PR FAQ. This doc includes 3 distinct parts: press release, FAQs, and visuals. It starts, as always, with, you guessed it, our customers. Who are they? What are their needs? Where do they have pain or frustration in their life? In AWS, around 90% of the features we develop are based directly from customer feedback and their expressed needs. The other 10% comes from being close enough to customers that we can innovate on their behalf when they don't or can't articulate these needs. But early ideas are cheap and frequent, so how do you know when you have an idea worth exploring more deeply? How do you determine if your new idea is ready to spend time working backwards and writing a PR FAQ document? We have a mechanism for that. The card that you see on screen lists 5 customer questions, and we teach Amazonians to wrestle with these questions as they start thinking about new ideas. Who is the customer? What are their problems or opportunities? Does your idea make the important customer benefit clear? How do you know what they need or want? And what does your customer experience look like? These questions are deceptively simple, and you could spend 5 minutes or 5 months to answer these questions. But using these questions helps to refine your thinking and approach, and when you have answers to these questions, you can start your PR FAQ doc. Let's start with the first part of a PR FAQ doc, the press release. The press release is a 1-page narrative describing a new product or service using customer-centric language. With the press release, we leap into the future and imagine how a customer feels when they may see or hear about the new idea before writing a single line of code. Limiting the press release to just 1 page forces us to be crisp around how we describe the launch of this product. In the press release, we communicate who the customer is, what problem the customer faces today, and we describe the solution with a description of the most important customer benefit. We also include a fictional quote from a fictional customer that records their reaction to the new service. This forces us to put ourselves in the mind of the customer and think how they would describe the benefits and value around the launch of the new product or service. The second part of a PR FAQ is frequently asked questions. While the PR is 1 page, the FAQ could be 5 or more. We include 2 types of FAQs: customer-focused questions that anticipate tough questions customers may ask, ensuring that we're thinking about their perspective from the very beginning. Examples of this can include: how much does it cost? What happens if it breaks? In AWS, that could be, how does this service relate to the work with other AWS services? In our retail business, we may ask, how does this affect me if I'm a Prime member, non-Prime, or new to Amazon? We also include FAQs internal stakeholders may ask, such as how this maps to internal goals, business outcomes, financials, why this idea provides a differentiated customer experience, and more. Visuals are the third part of a PR FAQ document and exist to communicate the end-to-end customer experience, helping to add detail where words cannot. All three of these parts that you can see on screen of the PR FAQ help to refine the idea and the customer problem it solves. Once a PR FAQ doc is written, it is then shared with teammates, stakeholders, subject matter experts, and so on. We obtain feedback, discuss and debate, and ask really deep questions. How else could we do this? Should this idea be bigger? Is this even the right solution? The first draft is never perfect, not even close, but it allows the team to have a starting point, and with every iteration or review, all the way through, the document becomes clearer and more refined, and the intended benefits to customers become stronger and more focused. The mechanism of creating a PR FAQ is one that has really worked for us for a few reasons. Firstly, it's a great way to democratize thinking big across the entire organization. Anyone across the company can write one for any idea, even one for a different business, different product, service, or organization than what they're working in currently. The process is a great way to share innovation across the team and bring in diverse viewpoints and opinions and help challenge and vet assumptions. It's also very low cost. It's a low cost way to innovate. All it costs is the time it takes to write, share, and discuss with stakeholders. Some PR FAQs don't move forward. Some become the basis for initial testing before we might scale an idea to launch, but all benefit from this process of iteration and refining the customer problem or opportunity, as well as customer benefits and values created for them. The third element of how we organize for innovation is architecture. We hire people who are excited to wake up every day and solve customer problems and help build the future. But you need to give these people an architecture platform and a robust set of tools that they can use that frees them up from constraints. We learned how to do this from our own architectural journey. More than a decade ago, Amazon, like many companies at the time, had a single monolithic architecture. All business logic and features centralized within it, and all teams writing code against this monolithic database. This tightly coupled centralization was efficient when the company was small, but over time, as our business scaled, it began to impact the speed with which we could launch new features or make updates to existing services. You couldn't change code without the risk of impacting other downstream services. There could be longer waits for build and deployment resources, and teams began to struggle to coordinate and communicate as there was no clear line of who owned what code. This created inflexibility and impacted speed, and we found we just weren't making the progress as fast as we wanted to. So around the year 2000, we started the process of breaking our monolithic code base apart to create service-oriented architecture. We started to separate our monolithic architecture into discrete domains and databases for orders, fulfillment, website, customers, and so forth. And we started building single-purpose services in front of them. As an example, a single standalone service was just dedicated to displaying the buy button on a product detail page, and a separate service was calculating the taxes on that item. Today, there are hundreds of thousands of services across Amazon, and the diagram that you see here on screen is part of the EC2 business, with each small blue dot being a discrete service. You can also see some lines or shading that represent how some of these services interact and call upon each other. These microservices form discrete building blocks of standalone web interfaces where both the underlying business logic and data are only exposed through hardened APIs. This highly decoupled architecture allowed services to run independently of each other and provides teams wider access for greater speed and efficiency and less latency. This shift to microservices also better protected the underlying data and logic and allows services to be launched or iterated upon independently without adding complexity, constraints, or dependencies. And another benefit of having this highly decoupled architecture is that it also accelerated our ability to move the business to the cloud. Migrating and validating discrete microservices was much simpler than if we had to move a monolithic code base. By doing this, we fundamentally changed our architecture so that there is no gatekeeper. There's no line to wait for storage, compute, databases, or start using machine learning. In the past, when you asked engineering teams how long it might take them to get a server to try an experiment, you got answers like 10 to 12 weeks, if you're lucky. In the cloud, you can provision thousands of servers within minutes, and then we have over 200 services that you can put together and use in whatever combination you want. You get from an idea to implementation in several orders of magnitude faster. This totally changes an organization, impacting the amount of cycles employees spend thinking about innovation because they know if they have an idea, they have a chance to see if it works. This expands the group of people inside a company that are thinking about new ideas from a select few to everyone. Our architecture supports and accelerates the pace of our innovation in 3 ways. First, we are able to prototype very rapidly. With AWS, you spin up thousands of servers in minutes, and you have access to a very robust, full-featured technology offering that lets you go from an idea to experimentation in record time. Second, we have low costs of failure. When you can prototype rapidly, this totally changes an organization because it expands the group of people inside a company that are thinking about new ideas. And with pay-as-you-go pricing, it's much cheaper to experiment because you simply turn off new ideas when they're not working. And third, we can move to scale really quickly when something works. AWS enables customers to deploy globally in minutes and with the elasticity to instantly scale up or down along with the needs of the business. Another benefit that helps our innovation is AWS's experience and maturity of its services. As Andy Jassy says, there is no compression algorithm for experience. You can't learn certain lessons until you get to different milestones in scale. AWS is a product of the experience we've had over the last 2 decades of the lessons learned from our own growth and scale and moving our own business to the cloud. AWS's approach to the services and features that provide also draws from our long experience continuously innovating on behalf of our customers across virtually every industry of every size, including startups, enterprises, and public sector organizations. We strive to ensure our services meet every conceivable use case, meeting the specific needs customers may have given their specific industry focus or size. The final element is organization. How do we organize our teams for speed and agility? First, you need to find the right people. We hire builders, people who like to invent, who want to build the future, people who like to look at different customer experiences and assess what's wrong with them and iterate them or reinvent them entirely. People who get that launch is the starting line and not the finishing line. And you need to organize these builders so that they can truly build, empower them to invent on behalf of customers. We have a distinctly Amazonian term for the way we organize people to optimize innovation and execution. This is what we call our 2 pizza teams, meaning that no team should be big enough that it would take more than 2 pizzas to feed them. Now, I'll let you decide what size pizzas they are because I could easily eat one to myself. But this concept is fundamentally around creating a little startup of 10 or less people. Smaller teams minimize the need for matriarchs communication and unnecessary meetings and bureaucracy. This helps accelerate decision making, and with less technological dependencies and freer access to the tools they need to innovate, Two pizza teams simply have more time to apply to rapidly innovate on behalf of their customers. Two pizza teams have single-threaded ownership over a specific product or service. Rather than maintaining complex systems or having to solve multiple problems across several lines of business, they can just focus on innovating for their own customers. Two pizza teams do not hand over something they've launched to another team to run. This single-threaded ownership extends to the full end-to-end customer experience across the entire life cycle of that product or service. This helps promote accountability. Two pizza teams need to stay on top of every part of their service with a clear charter and a tightly defined mission. They need to remain close to their customers and create the right tracking mechanisms, metrics, KPIs to ensure that service is constantly delivering value to customers. This requires that a two pizza team has the right resources embedded within them, such as engineering, testing, product and program management, to help them own and run what they build and continuously improve their service and proactively innovate for their customers. In the end, a two pizza team isn't just about the size as much as it is about pushing ownership and autonomy down to the team level. It allows those teams to run fast, experimenting early and frequently, and applying learnings rapidly. This also helps lower the cost of failure. Your learnings come quicker and at lower stakes than you might have otherwise faced at later stages of development. As demand for a product or service grows, rather than expanding the team to many more members, we split the team into separate two pizza teams working on single-threaded sub-areas. This maintains a flatter organization structure that preserves the agility, autonomy, and single-threaded ownership that's made two pizza teams work so well for us. What two pizza teams do not do, unfortunately, is guarantee success, but you can't have innovation without failure. Like Jeff says in his 2015 shareholder letter, failure and invention are inseparable twins. To invent, you have to experiment, and if you know in advance that it's going to work, it's not an experiment. You need to embrace failure as a necessary part of innovation and set up an organizational structure and culture where failure isn't just tolerated, it's expected if you're going to innovate. And we've had our fair share of failures. We had the failure of the auction market twice. We launched Amazon Auctions in 1999, but it didn't pan out. And later we launched Z Shops. For a small fee, we allowed anyone to set up a virtual store on Amazon to sell their products. Again, that idea didn't pan out. But we kept at it. We remained stubborn on the vision, but flexible on the details, and we really believed in the long-term value this would bring to both customers and sellers. And we remained flexible on how we implemented it, iterating based on what we learned each time. Now, Amazon Marketplace is a significant part of our retail business. Last year, over half of paid units were sold by third-party marketplace sellers. We also continue to iterate the services available through Amazon Marketplace, such as our Fulfillment by Amazon program that allows sellers to store their product in Amazon warehouses and make those products eligible for Prime shipping. And of course, we had the Fire Phone. That was a public failure. Only about a year after we launched, we ceased production and had to write down $170 million of unsold inventory. Building hardware is really hard, and yet many of the things that we've learned about building hardware, working with suppliers, help us today in our devices business. Some of the people who worked on Fire Phone went on to work on the early versions of the Echo and Alexa. You need a culture where if you work on something that fails, you're not punished by that failure or forced out of the business. So to recap, these are the 4 elements that go into how we organize for innovation: culture, mechanisms, architecture, and organization. They help us stay customer obsessed, empower our passion for invention, help our commitment to operational excellence, and sustain our long-term focus. We've found that these are all interconnected, working together to make something that is greater than the sum of its parts. And if you remove one of these, you'll likely not get the same result. For example, you can certainly get value out of AWS, represented by its architecture, and the full range of services and offerings we have to help you innovate. But to take full advantage of the cloud, you will also want to think about how it ties into other aspects of your organization. Are your values reinforced every day through your company's principles or tenets, with how you hire, how you promote, and how you relay performance feedback? What are the mechanisms you have for your organization to propose new ideas, which are cheap, and identify and fund and launch those ideas to customers? How do you organize and empower teams so that they can experiment? What's the cultural feeling of building something new? Is it an experiment or failure? Here at AWS, we want to help every customer who wants to innovate. Perhaps there's been something in this presentation that you might want to apply to your organization. If you'd like to learn more, you can work with your account team, or if you don't know who your account team are, you can go through Contact Us on AWS's website. You can then work with your account team to work out what's next. Here are 3 broad paths forward that you might want to consider. The first is for those who would like to build the platform on which to innovate. We have offerings to help you leverage the speed and agility of the AWS cloud by migrating workloads or building a modern architecture platform. We can help with offerings including ProServe, Cloud Adoption Framework, and our core AWS offerings, supported by our Migration Acceleration Program, EAP, and other programs. For those of you who are interested in applying an Amazon mechanism to a business problem, we have the Digital Innovation Team, who offers working backwards engagements where we work with customers to identify one or more specific opportunities or challenges. We hold a working backwards workshop and we define solutions, create a PR FAQ and a live cloud prototype, and then we take the solution to scale. Finally, if you're interested in organizational transformation, we have a series of executive briefing sessions that focus more deeply on the culture, HR, and organizational structure of innovation. Our ProServe team have a number of offers in this space, such as innovation advisory, and our enterprise strategy team may also be a great fit for full-scale transformation programs and other offerings. We've worked with customers who choose to proceed down more than one path at once. Work with your account team on what path, including options that might not be reflected on this slide, and we can pursue that and we can promise that we will have the best support your innovations that you want to achieve in your business. And that is everything from me today. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for tuning in, and I really hope you found it valuable and you learnt something new about our culture of innovation. Ideally, we would have loved this to be in person because we love to make this session as interactive as possible and get your feedback throughout. But as we weren't able to do that, if you could spare 2 minutes, there's a QR code on the screen right now. If you have a smartphone, you can scan it and enter feedback, how you found the session today. We really appreciate it. So I hope you enjoyed the rest of the sessions at the Community Summit Online 2021 and hope to speak to you soon.